One of the biggest questions today that we get asked by sellers are, do I sell now because I've been stinging to sell, or do I wait? We're going to talk about it. Stay tuned.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes. Myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak. Let's get high. Selling properties at the high. A lot of the Sydney market is 1% shy of where it was at the absolute peak in 2017. And a lot of people
1% shy of high.
Yeah, 1% shy. And a lot of people going, should I sell now? Should I sell now? I know you've taken a few calls just yet, like especially yesterday personally, Mark, from clients. And how's that conversation gone?
I don't like people to sell. I'm always trying to convince people to hold. It's a better story. It's a big asset to get in and to get out fast. But yeah, very interesting. And a lot of people are just genuinely like, shit, what do I do? So, you know, going through the mathematics with people, it's a feel good emotion straight away because it's just such a good market. You know what I mean? So you're always gonna feel great about the price you're getting today. But I think you will have a pretty sore head if this market continues, should I say, when this market continues to pump along. You know, you're going to have a pretty sore head if you look back 2 years and it's made hundreds of $1,000s that you didn't make.
Yeah, I think the question we sort of ask back to people is, well, if you do sell, what are you going to do with the money? And that really steers our advice back to them. Because if they're just like, oh, I'm betting the market's going to go down, I want to cash out, then sort of red flags go up and we're sort of like, you should really reconsider what your plans are. Good morning, Luke. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Tony. You should really sort of relook at what your plans are, especially when you bought. But if it's, oh, we want to buy something else, we want to do that, then it's sort of like, okay, well, now then we sort of go, well, the property market's gone up, you'll have more equity. Can you do it without selling? And sort of or redo it that way. Are you downsizing? You want to cash out and buy something else? Because a lot of people only look at one side of the deal. We were talking about this a lot when the market was basically going down, about what was your net position, like a unit going down 10% and then you're buying a house that goes down 10%, you're better off. A lot of people don't necessarily look at that in a rising market. Like, yeah, you get an extra 10% for your unit, but the house went up 10%, which is you're actually not as good off. So I think you really need to look at both sides of it. And if you're just selling because you're betting against the property market, that hasn't done well for anyone over the years. There's a lot of people who have sold out of it and then they can't get back in of what they had. So really look at what you're planning to do. Property is a long-term investment. Just because you made a bit of money doesn't mean you need to cash out. You just hold on. One thing people should be doing is using valuations in a rising market. Do you want to go through that, Mark, how that can work and what I mean by that?
Yeah, look, I think the valuations is your sort of line in the sand as a property owner. And when you've drawn that line in the sand, generally you can only move forward from that line. So at the moment, valuers aren't as gun shy as what they used to be, because they were going to get spanked in COVID if they were too high on a valuation or wrong, or there was loss of equity. The valuer would get spanked. But at the moment, valuers are finding that they have to actually be as optimistic as the buyers that are paying those prices. So when you get that valuation done, you're freezing a little bit of that value into the property, and you can actually take that piece of paper and wave it down the track. So it's a good job, Michael, you're right, to get your valuations at the moment, because once you've drawn that line in the sand, now what are we going to do with the money? And not necessarily spend, but maybe lend.
Yeah, refinance, get a better rate. as well, which will help because especially if you bought with mortgage insurance, get it revalued and now you're under the 80%. But also with interest rates so low at the moment where nearly all purchases are positive, if your value's gone up 20% and now you can pull out 20% and that's enough for a 1 unit bedroom deposit, then instead of selling just because you're up, use that upness to buy another property and it'll pay for itself and you've now got 2 properties. So I think that would be what I'd be recommending to clients before rushing to sell just because you think you're winning. Because in a couple of years, you may be kicking yourself. And a lot of the time it is.
You will be kicking yourself. You will be kicking yourself. And if you look at the property market the last 3 years, investors have had a really hard time. They've had, not with interest rates going down though, but they've had a really hard time with lending money. They've had a real hard time with property values, and they've even had a hard time with tenants in the last year. They've sort of been beaten about the head. So if they can have an excuse to dump the property, they will. But guys, keep the hope up. Bearing in mind, if we show you a property graph in the last 3 years, it goes down. So it goes down and then it goes back up. So I had a client yesterday that was Mario, that I was talking with yesterday, and he's like, mate, why did we buy this shit unit? Which I being an Italian, I should have bought a house. Mate, wow, factories or a house? Why didn't I buy a factories or a house? And I said, Mario, hang on a second, buddy. I said, let me show you the graph of DY is where he bought. I said, let me show you the graph of DY. You actually bought at the high. You bought at the all-time high in the marketplace. Now you're 2 or 3 years down the track. Now you're thinking of selling the unit. But I said, just when it starts to make some money, you're going to get rid of it. And I said, then you're going to get rid of it. 3 years will go like that. And you'll look back and go, mate, that thing's worth 300 grand more than when I sold it.
Yeah. So where it's that old saying, it's not timing of the market, it's time in the market. And I think we're going to be coming up to that crossroads for a lot of people where they bought in 16, 17, the market plummeted, they stressed because now it's worth less than what they bought it for. It's back to even, and they're like, just cut our losses. But remember the wealth creation path through property. There's micro markets within it, ups and downs from quarter to quarter, year to year. But take the 5-year snapshot over the last 30 years and you'll see that growth. I think a lot of people need to look at that and make your decision there. If you're selling to buy something else, then yes, it's keeping your money in the market, but see if you can leverage keeping the property because, as you said, Mark, selling a property is expensive. You got to buy something else, stamp duty, 4-5%. Your selling costs are probably 3%. Like it's 7%, say on $2 million. It's a big amount of money. It's 70 grand, but you're burning.
So we've got some pros watching. Luke, Tony, Jeff, our viewers. What would you recommend to do in this all-time high in the market? Would you sell your asset? Are you selling your assets or are you buying? It's really interesting stuff, mate. But I think at the end of the day, what you said at the beginning, Michael, what are you going to do with the money? Is that money that you're going to crystallize when you sell and take out of the property, is that going to work as well for you somewhere else? Because what people don't realize is they may have a unit worth $1 million. They bought it for $1 million 3 years ago. They're like, this is shit. I'm going to sell this now. I'm going to get out of this. This is like Mario yesterday. Now, you probably put 200,000 into that unit. You haven't got $1 million working for you if you don't put $1 million back in. So if you sell that unit and you take that $200,000 and you buy a camper van, or you take that 200 or 2 camper vans, or you take that $200,000 and you go and buy $200,000 worth of stocks. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Now, the camper van, you may go, you know what? It's about lifestyle. I just lost my family member, my uncle, my auntie. I'm going to live better. That's different, right? That's a personal. You do you. But if you're going to take that 200 grand that you sold out of the $1 million unit and go and put into stocks, that stock's got to perform 5 times better than a property for $1 million because you've got $1 million in there. Think about that.
Yeah, and that's key. Anything else you want to add on that? I think it sort of covers a lot of that question where people are getting to that stage where should I sell now and back to even, or I've made a shitload of money because I bought 10 years ago.
No, that's it, man. In conclusion, is your money going to work better for you elsewhere? I doubt. Have a good think about those numbers long term, and if it's not about money, and you're improving lifestyle, then make sure that's compelling enough to sell the property.
Yeah.
Hey?
Then call us. We'll sell it. But that's
what people need to or just sell the property
as well. That's the thing. People need to be honest with themselves. Are you doing this for lifestyle, or are you doing it because you've got another opportunity? That's what some people they mix up. You got to do one or the other.
That Mario that I was speaking with yesterday, I won't use his surname, but if his unit this year will peg out about 15%, in my opinion, he will make $150,000. In the year ahead of that, I believe, I could be wrong, guys, I'm guessing, 15%. I believe the year after we'll do at least another 10 or 15%. One thing that I've missed in talking about in this conversation is property values have not doubled in the last 10 years.
No, they're only about 70, aren't they? 65, 75 in most areas. 75, so 30%.
Yep. So if you're skeptical about the market, which is probably most people, about any further future capital growth, just remember, it has always doubled every 10 years. It has always done that for 50 to 100 to 200 years. It has not done that in the last 10 years. So until I see double in the marketplace, like you said, Michael, it's sitting at 65, 75, 80% in different markets in Sydney. Until I see it get to 100%, that's double, then I'll be like, okay, now we're back to where we should have been.
And that's on par with what Westpac just came out, 30% growth over 3 years. And that's there's a few all along those lines. And that will take us to the 100% in 10 years. So, yeah.
Yep. And Tony says buy into the unknown. When do you ever know?
It's true.
When do you ever? Really? Really? Yeah. How would you know COVID was going to, how would you? Yeah, you're right. It is scary, but it is bricks and mortar. So, let's get high, and a rising market. Is it time to sell? In my opinion, it's never time to sell.
Yeah, and Tony, assessing trust accounts for deposits. Yeah, we will do deposits released. I think maybe tomorrow or the following day, not before, from both prospective vendor and agent. A topic perhaps. Yeah. Awesome. Alrighty, thank you for watching.
Oh,
wait.